Hello, guys. Welcome back to another exciting episode. I'm thrilled to have you with us today. We've got some amazing discussions lined up that you definitely won't want to miss. So grab a seat, kick back, and let's dive right in. But before we dive in, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. This is Emma, and you're listening to Let's Talk About English podcast.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Ben here. I'm super pumped for today's episode. We're diving into a topic that I think a lot of you are going to find super relatable. It's all about getting to know each other, how to introduce yourself, and really owning the conversation, right?
Yeah, exactly. We're talking about the classic question, tell me about yourself. It seems like a simple question, but there's actually a lot of cool, casual ways to answer that to make it sound way more natural.
For sure. And let's be real, sometimes that question can be kind of awkward, especially if you're meeting someone new and you're not sure what to say. Like, do you go all in and give your life story? Or do you keep it chill and just talk about your favorite pizza topping? There's definitely an art to it.
Exactly, Ben. And what we want to do today is break down how to answer that question in a way that feels super natural and comfortable. We'll cover some of the best ways to introduce yourself, sprinkle in some fun lingo, and give you a feel for how to keep the conversation flowing without feeling like you're reading off a script.
Yeah, totally. So let's jump into it, starting with some of the vocab and expressions that can make your self-introduction sound way more casual, like you've been talking to the person for years.
Right. We all know those phrases that make conversations sound more relaxed. Instead of just saying, I like to read, you could say, I'm all about reading. Like, I could spend the whole day with a book. It just gives off a more enthusiastic vibe.
Oh, I love that. And instead of saying, I work as a teacher, you could say, I'm a teacher and I pretty much live for those aha moments when a student gets it. It's more like you're sharing a piece of your passion, right?
Exactly, Ben. And instead of being super formal and saying, I am interested in photography, you could drop, I'm super into photography. Like, I'm that person who always has a camera with them. It makes it sound like it's not just a hobby, but a huge part of who you are.
Yeah, that's how you really make a connection. You're not just telling them a fact about you, but you're sharing a piece of your personality. And honestly, that's what makes conversations way more interesting.
For sure. And let's talk about some expressions we use to keep things flowing. Like, instead of saying, I really like coffee, you could say, I'm totally obsessed with coffee. I can't even start my day without it. See the difference? You're putting a little more energy behind it.
Totally. And those little expressions like no kidding, or you bet, or it's a whole thing, they add so much flavor to a conversation. It's like you're not just having a normal chat, you're vibing, you know?
Exactly. It just makes everything feel more authentic. So, now that we've covered some basic vocab and phrases, let's dive into some common mistakes people make when answering, tell me about yourself.
Right, let's do it. One mistake I see a lot is when people over-explain. Like when someone asks, tell me about yourself, and you start talking about your entire life story. Like, I was born in a small town, went to school here, then moved to a different city. It's a bit too much, right?
Yeah, that's definitely a whoa, slow down moment. When you're introducing yourself, it's better to keep it short and sweet. Maybe focus on one or two things that are really important to you or things you're passionate about. Keep it interesting and engaging, but not a monologue.
Exactly. You don't have to tell them your life story on the first day. Just give them enough to keep them intrigued and leave room for them to ask follow-up questions. That way the conversation flows naturally.
Totally, Ben, and that's a key part of making a good impression, keeping it balanced. You want to give enough information to seem interesting, but not so much that the person feels like they're in an interview.
Yeah, nobody wants that vibe. So, Emma, what about mistakes with the actual vocabulary or phrasing? Any common pitfalls?
Oh, for sure. One mistake I see often is when people use like too much. Like, really like to play sports. That's a little too much. You want to use like for emphasis, but not every other word. Keep it balanced.
Oh yeah, for sure. Too many likes can make it sound a little bit overdone. You want to keep it cool, but still sound confident and clear?
Exactly. And let's not forget those awkward pauses, when someone says, "So, tell me about yourself." And then there's this long silence because you're trying to think of what to say. Don't worry, it happens to everyone. Just take a breath and jump right into it.
Yeah, and don't stress about it. If you don't have the perfect answer, that's fine. Just be yourself and the conversation will naturally flow. So let's talk about the cultural aspect a little bit, right?
For sure. In American culture, the way we introduce ourselves and the way we talk about ourselves is pretty laid back compared to some other countries. It's not all about titles and formalities here. People tend to focus on interests, hobbies, or what you're passionate about. It's less about where you're from and more about where you're at now, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Like in some cultures, they might ask about your family, your job title, or your background first. But here, people might ask what you do for fun or what you're into right off the bat.
Exactly. It's all about the vibe, not the resume. People want to connect on a personal level first.
Totally. So we've talked about keeping it casual, but now we want to get into the nitty-gritty, things like over-explaining and using the wrong tone. One of the biggest mistakes I see people make is not balancing between too much info and not enough. They either end up talking for ages or giving a super short answer that's almost awkward.
Yeah, that's true. You want to find that sweet spot. Don't just say, "I work in finance," but also don't start rambling about your childhood and how you ended up in your current career. You want to keep it concise but informative. And don't forget to sound confident about it.
Right. It's like you want to show that you're comfortable with who you are without overselling yourself. And another mistake I see is when people start with the negatives, like, "I'm not really good at this," or "I'm still figuring it out." It's okay to be honest, but framing it like that can make you sound unsure or like you don't have much to offer.
Oh, for sure. That kind of language can make things sound way more negative than they actually are. If you're still figuring something out, that's fine, but you don't have to lead with that. Instead, you could say, "I'm always looking for ways to improve," or "I'm passionate about learning and growing in this area." That sounds way more positive and proactive, right?
Exactly. And you want to keep the focus on what you bring to the table. You don't have to be perfect, nobody is, but being able to talk about what you've learned and what you're excited about shows confidence.
Exactly. And another common mistake people make is not listening to the other person. I mean, it sounds simple, but if you're too focused on giving your answer, you might miss the chance to ask them questions. Conversations should be two-way, right?
For sure. It's all about finding that balance. When you're giving your answer, you don't want to drone on. You want to give just enough info to sound interesting, but leave room for them to engage. Ask questions, make it interactive.
Exactly, Ben. And then there's the whole issue of tone. Sometimes people can come across as too formal or too casual, depending on the setting. For example, in a job interview, you might not want to start with, "Yo, I'm super into gaming," right? But in a casual setting, you also don't want to be too stiff and say, "I am an engineer at XYZ company."
Yeah, for sure. You've got to adjust your tone to the environment. In a more formal setting, you'll want to sound professional but still friendly. In a casual chat, you can be laid back, but still show you care about the conversation.
Exactly. It's all about matching the vibe. And another thing I've noticed, people often try to impress with big words or complex phrases. They think it makes them sound smarter, but sometimes it just comes off as forced.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you don't need to be throwing around words like supercalifragilisticexpialidocious just to sound impressive. You want to sound genuine and relatable, not like you're trying too hard.
Right. You don't want to overcomplicate things. Keep it simple and relatable. People like conversations where they feel like they're talking to a real person, not a walking dictionary.
Exactly. And you know what? Another mistake is forgetting about body language. We've talked about how you answer with your words, but your body language is super important too.
If you're speaking with your arms crossed or avoiding eye contact, it can totally change the way your message comes across.
Oh, definitely. If you're nervous or uncomfortable, your body language will totally show it. It's important to just relax, smile, and make eye contact. It'll make you come across as way more open and confident.
Yeah, and that's key when you're trying to make a good impression, especially when you don't know the person very well yet. Your tone, body language, and choice of words all work together to create the vibe of the conversation.
Exactly. So, with all these tips and examples in mind, let's move on and talk about the cultural side of things. Why does the way we introduce ourselves matter so much in the US?
Good question. In the US, we really value that sense of personal connection. It's less about your title or what you do, and more about who you are and what you care about. People here tend to be more laid back and open about their personal lives.
Right. And that's what makes conversations feel so easy and real here. People want to know what makes you tick, what you're passionate about, not just your job or your accomplishments. It's more about the human connection.
Exactly. People here are all about making those personal connections and finding common ground. So it's not just about answering, "Tell me about yourself," it's about showing them who you are on a deeper level.
All right, we've covered a lot of ground so far. We talked about vocabulary, common mistakes, and how tone and body language play a huge role in making the right impression. Now, let's dive deeper into the cultural side of things and explore why the way we introduce ourselves matters so much in the US.
Right, Emma. So when we talk about introductions in the US, it's not just about throwing out your job title or where you went to school. It's more about who you are as a person, your vibe, your passions. It's like, hey, I'm more than just my resume. Let me tell you what makes me tick.
Exactly. In American culture, people are all about building personal connections right off the bat. You want to make people feel comfortable enough to open up, and that usually starts with a casual and friendly introduction. It's more about what are you into and less about what do you do.
Yeah, I've noticed that too. Like when you meet someone at a party or in a more casual setting, you're not usually starting with, "So, where did you get your degree from?" or "What's your job title?" Instead, it's more like, "What's your vibe? What do you love doing?" That's how you really start to bond.
Definitely. And this casual, open approach makes it easier to connect with people from different backgrounds. Whether you're meeting someone from your hometown or someone from across the world, being able to talk about shared interests or passions is how you create those instant bonds.
Exactly. And another thing to note is that American culture is pretty laid back. So people here tend to appreciate when someone is being genuine and not just trying to impress them with fancy job titles or credentials. It's refreshing to just hear someone talk about what they enjoy doing outside of work or their professional life.
Right? It's that whole idea of work-life balance. In the US, especially in the past few decades, there's been a big shift towards people wanting to know that you have a life outside of your 9 to 5. So it's not just about talking about what you do for a living, it's about showing that you have a passion for something else too.
Totally. And this really applies in interviews too, not just casual chats. When you get asked the question, "Tell me about yourself," it's not just about regurgitating your qualifications, it's about giving them a glimpse of who you are beyond your resume. What drives you? What gets you excited?
Exactly. It's your chance to give them a more holistic picture of who you are. And here's the thing, being authentic in that answer is what resonates with people the most. People want to connect with the real you. So instead of saying, "I'm just a marketing consultant," try something like, "I'm passionate about helping brands connect with their audiences in a meaningful way." You're giving them a sense of purpose and passion behind your job title.
And when you share that with them, you start to create a connection. You're not just talking about the things on paper, but you're showing them the person behind the job. It opens the door for more meaningful conversations.
Exactly. And it goes beyond just words. The way we express ourselves and the energy we bring into the conversation says a lot. In American culture, it's not just what you say, it's how you say it. Being enthusiastic and engaging in a conversation is key to making a lasting impression.
Right, like when you say, I love playing the guitar, but you say it with no enthusiasm, it's not going to sound nearly as interesting as if you say, I'm absolutely obsessed with playing the guitar. I could play for hours and not even notice the time fly by.
Exactly. The energy you bring into the conversation speaks volumes. It shows that you're genuinely excited about what you're talking about, and that passion is contagious. People are more likely to connect with you when they see that you're excited and passionate.
And let's talk about one more cultural thing. Americans generally value brevity and efficiency in conversation. So while we love a good story, we don't want it to go on forever. When you're talking about yourself, you want to keep it short, sweet, and to the point. But of course, still be genuine and not rush through it.
Definitely. People here appreciate getting to the point without a ton of filler. So, in a casual conversation, you don't need to dive deep into every little detail of your life. But in an interview or more formal setting, it's about finding that balance between being concise and still giving enough to showcase your personality.
Exactly. And you want to keep the conversation engaging too, right? It's like you're telling a story about yourself, but you're doing it in a way that leaves people wanting to hear more, not just giving them all the details in one go.
Totally. So when you're answering, tell me about yourself, make it interesting, but keep it short and sweet. Leave them wanting to know more and make sure you're showing them who you are, not just what you do.
All right, so to wrap things up, we've covered a ton of helpful tips today, from casual introductions to diving into the cultural side of how we express ourselves in the US. I hope you all feel a bit more prepared the next time you find yourself in a situation where someone asks, "Tell me about yourself."
Exactly, Ben. The key takeaway here is that you don't have to overthink it. Just be yourself, share what you're passionate about, and keep it real. Whether you're meeting new people or just having a casual chat, being authentic is what matters most.
Yeah, for real. And don't forget, when you're answering this question, focus on the things that make you you. It's not about bragging or giving an endless resume. It's about making a connection and showing your personality.
Right, and remember, it's all about striking the right balance. Don't over-explain, but don't undershare either. Keep it concise, but also show the passion behind your words. And always be mindful of how you're saying things. Enthusiasm and energy make a huge difference.
Exactly. Now, before we wrap up, let's do a quick vocabulary recap. We went over some important phrases today like, I'm all about it, I'm super into, and I'm high-key excited. These are great ways to express your enthusiasm and make your conversation sound more natural.
Yes, and don't forget about expressions like for real, no kidding, and you bet. They're simple, but they really help you sound more genuine and engaged.
Exactly. So make sure you're using these phrases to add some flavor to your conversations and keep them engaging. Now, before we go, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We've got more exciting topics coming your way, and you won't want to miss them.
And of course, if you enjoyed this episode, drop us a comment and let us know what you think about this topic and how you introduce yourself. We'll be back with more fun discussions next time.
You bet. Thanks for hanging out with us today. Keep being awesome, and we'll catch you next time.
That's a wrap. Take care, everyone.